Okay, so it's 2 o'clock. You ready to dive into this insanity?
Let's dive into it.
All right, let me admit everybody. Ugh. See how this goes. Like the whole point of this is for the students to be able to ask questions.
Yeah,
But
sure.
well, we'll see if they'll actually ask any damn questions. It's like, you know how you set all this up? It's like, look, I'm bringing you a real technology professional so you can ask your questions. And then they all just sit there very quietly, and you're like,
Right?
okay, fuck.
Are you back in Nashville?
Yeah, yeah, we're in Asheville now. Yeah,
All
yeah.
right.
For a little while. Yeah, we were maybe we'll talk about it later. Yeah, we were looking at moving to Miami, and then my president decided to do whatever the hell he's doing with the economy, and so not quite sure how I feel about that. Cool. Okay, so everybody is in. So hello, everybody that's here. Uh God, I have a whole spiel. I don't know. I have to get in the mood for the spiel. So, as you all may or may not know, I'm known as Eli, the computer guy. I do silicondojo.com. The idea is, what if technology education was simply as accessible as water? So we have self-study classes. We have Python, SQL, something called the Bottle Web App Framework. I'm working on an Introduction to Program series. You can just go there and you can learn that now. I do one-on-one sessions with people every Monday between 1 to 5 p.m. We sit down and talk for about 30 minutes to discuss whatever your particular issues are. We do classes and that type of thing. One of the big things I'm realizing, though, is talking with the students out there is that their view of the technology world is very narrow. And so then they come to me and they try to ask me what the answers are, which isn't how this industry works. And so my idea is, what if we bring in technology professionals so I can have a discussion with them? You folks can ask your questions while we're doing this discussion, and so that you can get a better idea for whatever your particular problems are. So we have Martin Lehner on today. He runs Tangerine Technologies up in the Yukon territory of Canada. So this might be a rather nerve-wracking conversation today. Um, we're going to have Steve Newman next week, and we're going to have somebody that's doing an AI company the week after. With this, so I'm going to be asking Martin a lot of questions. Look, I come prepared. Look at all these questions that I'm interested in getting answers to. So I have these questions, but as we're talking, you folks can raise your hands and basically, I can call on you, and if you have a particular question of your own, you can ask Martin yourself. I would recommend that you turn your video on and you do it. You actually ask the question. This gets you used to asking questions, gets you in front of the class. We got 11 people in here now, plus is going to go on to YouTube later. So this is good for you showing the world that you exist. If your English is god awful or you just can't do it, you can put your question into the chat stream and I will get to it whenever I get to it. So, Martin, hello. How you doing?
Hello, hello.
Are you still allowed to, are we still friends? Are we frenemies? I don't know.
We
Are we
are
allowed to
we
talk
are
to each other?
still we are still free. It's interesting because I mean we border Alaska, right? So there has been a lot of discussion about whether we are still friends or not. So yes,
Yeah.
yes, we are.
You are actually rather close to Alaska, right?
Oh yeah, 2 hours by car.
Okay, yeah. So are you still, because before, I know last time we talked, you actually went over to Alaska a decent amount. Are you still going over there very much?
Yeah, I mean, look, Yukoners regularly go to Alaska. Alaskans come to the Yukon. It's pretty normal.
Yeah.
I do. There's probably a little bit of decrease in traffic, but it's not really the same thing because we see ourselves as Northerners. We don't see ourselves as Canadians and Americans necessarily. We see ourselves as Northerners.
Huh.
So
Interesting.
yeah,
So the Alaskans and the Yukon, you're just Northerners. You're not.
we're just Northerners. We're Northerners, and you guys are Southerners. Doesn't matter which country you're in, you're Southerners.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Cool. So, okay. So the people at home or people wherever they're at, so they understand what's going on. So you run and you created, it's Tangerine Technologies, right?
Yep.
So you're a managed service provider. And do you have three locations now? Is that right?
We got two main locations. So we operate throughout the entire Yukon. Our head office is in Whitehorse. It's the capital of the Yukon.
Yeah.
And then we also operate on Vancouver Island. We opened up an office there back in February of 2020, which was excellent timing, I must say. But yeah, we do operate in both locations and we're 15 years old this year. Coming up the next few months, we're going to be 15 years old. So yeah, been doing this a while.
Yeah.
Still plugging along.
So fun. How many employers are you up to now?
Normally we've got a complement of about a dozen, plus minus. Right now we're at about eight. We're a little short because talent is hard to find. It is hard to find people who are talented and looking for a job.
Really?
So, yes.
So, like, when you're looking for talent, like, what level are you looking for? A plus, MCSE?
I will take someone who's interested in learning how to fix a computer at this point. That's how bad it is. Like it's for everybody listening. Um, Look, I understand, if you've got family or you're married with kids and your kids are school age, you don't want to get up and leave and move everybody wherever, right? I get that. And there's circumstances too. If you got elderly parents who are sick, whatever it is, right? But if you're able to, especially if you are a single young person in their 20s, get up and move because you can make a lot more money and you can further your career by moving somewhere where there's a scarcity of labor market for a certain industry, right? The same way you probably wouldn't move to, I don't know, if you're in vehicle manufacturing, right? If you're somebody who's worked in a vehicle manufacturing plant, you're probably not going to move to Asheville. So I don't think they make cars there, right? Probably better if you move somewhere where there's a plant where they make cars. So, on the same token, if IT people are needed in, I don't know, Alaska, and you can make money doing it, feel free to go.
So,
It
like,
works.
so if you're hiring, so let's say a lower level person, because a lot of my viewers are, like, what does that look like for a salary?
We're probably at the point where it's somewhere between 20 and 25 bucks an hour at this point. That's bench tech level, level one,
Yeah.
A plus equivalent, let's say. Once you start getting into being able to, actually fix things and set things up and, do some server virtualization, whatever, yeah, you're approaching 30 bucks, 30 plus. Um, we have level three techs, like these are people who um, can fix anything, basically anything we deploy and work with. They'll be upwards of 40 plus for sure.
Damn, okay. And then what does rent look like around there? So, because that's the thing is everybody throws out the salary, but if rent is God knows what, it doesn't matter.
Like residential rent, like a place to rent.
Yeah.
I mean, this varies, of course, a lot between the countries, but it's not awful. Like you're talking 2,000 bucks a month for a basic basement suite somewhere,
Yeah.
basically. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not, I mean, it's more, it's definitely not cheap, but salaries match it. Obviously, they have to, otherwise, you can't find anybody.
Yeah. So why? I mean, I thought the youngins nowadays were all supposed to be hyper technical and the rest of it. Like why can't you find people?
Well, here's the thing. So, I years ago, I worked for a member of parliament. That would be for you guys, someone in the House of Representatives, federally. And one of the things that was happening at that point in time was we have a federal government department called Statistics Canada, and that's part of the government, and they just put out stats, right? They put out stats on immigration, age, like just anything you can think of, right? They administer the census, all that kind of stuff. And what they came out with back then was kind of a red alert, red alarm kind of thing. And it was based on what they were looking at by the year 2030, Every vacancy, every single one, 100% of vacancies in skilled professions will be filled through immigration alone. And there's a few reasons for this. One, we have an economy that's growing too fast. Two, we don't produce enough babies anymore. And three, we have a lot of people retiring in the next few years. So we just don't have the labor market. We're short labor market. That's what it is.
Really? So your economy is growing? Because I thought people were complaining about the Canadian economy. You're saying it's growing too big or too fast?
It doesn't grow as fast as the US economy, of course. I don't know if it ever will, quite frankly. I mean, the US economy is I mean, look, you're the largest consumer in the world for a reason, right? There's a reason for that. We do still grow. Our economy does still grow. Has it been stagnant over the last few years for sure? But it does still grow. And the problem's compounded. We don't make enough babies, and too many people are retiring. So every year, as I don't know, I'm just throwing numbers out. These aren't real, but 100,000 people retire, right? We've only got 40,000 people turning 18 as adults. We got a
Mm.
problem because we're shrinking our available labor market.
Hmm.
And that just got exponentially worse with the COVID thing, right? Like a lot of people who were close to retirement, 3, 4 years away, they said, screw it in COVID. I'm just going to retire right now. Forget it. And they left. Huge problem in the trades. Like you can't find any trades to build homes, to build anything, commercial property, condos, whatever it is. You can't find anybody because all of, the old trades guys, they all retired. They all hung up their hats during the COVID thing, and that's it. So now you've got, the people coming in, they don't have as much experience. They don't have the mentorship from those older folks. It's a big problem.
Interesting. But aren't you guys cracking down on immigration? Because I know like a number of years ago, Trudeau wanted to dunk on Trump. So when Trump was doing whatever he was doing 8 years ago, Trudeau said, everybody can come here. And then apparently that wasn't the greatest idea either. So like what's going on with immigration there then?
They did scale back the numbers. They scaled back quite a bit on the international student stuff as well.
Really?
Um,
Why would they
it's
do
a
that?
it's a some of it's politics and perception, some of it's maybe legitimate. One of the arguments that's made, and I don't subscribe to it, but is that immigrants are eating up the housing supply. And
Okay.
that's what's driving a lot of the increases in housing. That's not actually true. Housing policies in Canada have underbuilt housing since before you and I were alive. Okay, it's been like that for a long time, and the reason is because a lot of Canadian wealth is tied up in principal residences, right? A lot of people's retirement is banked on their home having appreciated a certain amount of money. So we artificially don't build enough housing to bump that price up. And so that's one thing. Now, what happens is a lot of these immigrants, what they do is they end up living a dozen people to a home because that doesn't bother them. So for them, they can afford to buy the $1.5 million home because they're splitting it 12 ways. Um, and so there's been a lot of discussion about whether immigrants are taking all the homes. It's not true and it's not that simple, but that's part of it. And there has been this is true. There has been some I wouldn't say widespread, but there has been some fraud in the international student visas and things like that. So
Hmm.
they've clamped down a bit on it at this point. I suspect it'll open back up again quite a bit. Um, we need employees. I mean, I can tell you looking at resumes when I put job ads out, um, 95% of the resumes I get are from people who are immigrants, right? They're not from here. Either their education is from overseas or their work history is from overseas, or some of them still have their overseas phone numbers.
Hmm.
I don't get locals applying. That's not a thing.
That's interesting. So like how big, so where you're at in the Yukon, like what's your population there? Is it like 10,000, 100,000, a million? Obviously not a million, but
We are, let's check, because we have actually grown quite a bit, proportionally, but we have grown quite a bit in the last few years. It is a popular place to go. They're estimating 47,000 in as of 2025.
that's so okay. So here's my question. Well, yeah, one, like why are you there? But two, it's a popular place to go. Like every time, because anybody at home or whatever, we've had these conversations quite a few times. It's not a place I'm not sure I'd want to go. Like what what makes it a popular place to,
For
sub
work,
70
for
degree
work, for
for
work.
work?
Look, there's some weird people who really like winter. I don't know, those people are weird and like a
Yeah.
lot of snow and stuff. Um, if you like outdoors stuff, yeah, for sure. I mean,
Mm,
if you're an outdoors person who likes to fish, hunt, any of that stuff, absolutely. I mean, that's the place to go. But if you're there for any other reason, it's purely economic. It's jobs, right?
right.
Um, if you are, I mean, there's jobs everywhere. I mean, the largest employer is the government, right? The territorial government employs about 30 or 40% of the population.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, and I mean, these are, government union jobs with pensions, right?
Okay.
So that's where most of our techs go. So we lose staff. We don't lose staff
Hmm.
generally. The attrition we do have in staff is they're moving on into a government position. Because if I'm paying a tech 30 bucks, government's going to pay them 38, 39 bucks,
Uh,
and they're going to get 8 weeks of holidays, and they're going to get a pension after 20 years that pays them their entire salary every year until they die.
holy
So
shit.
that's where they go. And I understand that's where they go. It just is what it is, right? So we're
Yeah.
we're kind of a stepping stone for people to get into government.
Same.
That's just the reality of it. But that's why people show up in the north because you can make a disproportionate income, and you can have opportunities that just don't exist in the south because there's fewer people competing for them.
Hmm. So is like the industry, like what the government supports there, is that like extraction, oil, timber, that type of thing? Or is it just kind of, you know how you get the weird thing of social services? You have people, so you need government employees, so there then, and you get just this weird, is that what you're dealing with?
It's the latter. Look, we have some mining, we have some junior mining and such, but it's kind of trash. It's not. Yeah, it comes and goes. Mine's open, mine's closed. I think mineral extraction, as a general statement in Canada's North, is going to become more important for sure. Um, and it's something that is important. I think you're going to see more of it in Alaska too. I mean, they drill oil in Alaska, but I think you're going to see a good focus on the North, especially with climate change and as it warms up. And it is warming up. I mean, we're getting permafrost melt. We're getting access to areas we didn't really have access to before. So that's going to help in that regard. So yeah, we have some industry, but the industry's government. It's just government.
So how does that make you feel? Like, so with us, I don't know what the hell's going on with our politics. We keep ping-ponging back and forth. And so again, one of the big things with the Trump administration now is kind of killing that whole government pipeline thing. With you guys in Canada, are you all comfortable with this? Or is it like this is great? Or is there the possibility in one of these elections half of your people could get fired or half the government employees get fired?
It won't be half. No, not a chance. It definitely won't be half. Um, Will we see a trimming in government? If we have a conservative government, will there be some trimming in government? Yeah, probably. I would bet the majority that's going to be hiring freezes, not necessarily getting rid of people. Generally, that's what we see. A trimming is not really a trimming, it's a hiring freeze. So I would anticipate seeing that, um, but I don't see a drastic slashing by any means, no.
Huh, okay. And then so you're talking about so you hire people that can actually do computer repair, so A plus level. There's actually there's still in 2025 there's still money that is there money in there or is that just something you've got to do just because you're doing other things?
Um, Is there money? There probably still is. We don't do a lot of the bench stuff anymore. Just we did a lot more of it in the past. We just don't we don't have the we don't have the we don't have the staff to do it. We just don't really have the capacity. We got too much work elsewhere to focus on it. Is it something that could be focused on? Yeah, for sure. Is there still money in it? I think there probably still is.
Hmm.
That being said, I mean that's the folks we get, right? The folks we get are folks that have repaired their computers at home and maybe set up their Wi-Fi router at home, and that's it. And that's fine. We'll take those people. It's you said it years ago. You can't teach attitude. You can teach somebody to fix a printer. You can't teach somebody to want to fix the printer. So as long as they got the right attitude, we can train most people. Um, but yeah, we don't do a ton of that anymore. I mean, most of our stuff is, it's the MSP stuff. It's the fixing the printer and the
Yeah.
Wi-Fi don't work over here and you know.
Well, is it still that? Because I know here in Asheville, like most of the MSP stuff nowadays has actually gone off to Azure. So most of this stuff is you have as little local as possible, and then you build your Azure infrastructure. Is that like because I know we've talked about internet there being piss poor. So are you even able to do that if you wanted to?
We can. I mean, this comes down to cost. We deploy lots on-prem servers still.
Yeah.
It's not all cloud-based. Because there's a tipping point of cost, right? I mean, I do this with people laugh at me, especially in the various groups on Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever, and I love getting into it with people. But we still in 2025 deploy on-prem Exchange servers
Really?
for
I
clients.
wasn't even know
Absolutely.
they still sold them, honestly.
Absolutely. Yeah, they still sell it, they still support it. And there's a few reasons,
Mm,
right? Some is regulatory. There's reasons for not putting things into the cloud.
yeah,
And the other part is cost, right? The tipping point is about 22 users. When you get to 22 users,
yeah.
it is cheaper to buy the hardware, to buy the license, and to run it on a 4-year life cycle than to pay the annual subscription dues to 362. I call it 362 because it's not 365 because they do have outages. I actually tracked just for the fun of it, and in 3 of the last 5 years, our on-prem Exchange servers were online. They had a higher uptime than 362 over 365 days. That's why I call it that. But anyways, so there is a tipping point on cost when you look at 4-year life cycle. Um, it's cheaper. When you have 50 users, it is cheaper to have it on-prem. Now people flail and scream about, "Ooh, what about administering it and all that?" And I mean, you used Exchange during the days when you actually had to administer it. I'm telling you, it just runs. There's nothing you have to do outside of installing security updates. There's nothing else to do. It just runs.
Right. So there's no
Day in, day out, it just runs.
maintenance on it used to be.
No, there's just installing some security updates here and there when they come out, but that's it.
Hmm.
So there is a cost reason to do it. I mean, the other one's regulatory and where you're physically keeping. I mean, you got to remember, anybody outside the US, you got to remember, like, we have laws on data, right? So we put the data into Microsoft's cloud. It's in the US. It's subject to a different set of laws than it is in Canada. So for example, the Patriot Act allows your authorities to access data warrantless. That's not recognized in Canada. We're not allowed to do that. So when that happens, that might be totally legal for an American authority to do. But if it happens, now you have legally in Canada, you have a data breach because somebody who's unauthorized went and looked at the data. It's one of those weird gray areas, right? It is a law enforcement um, situation, but we don't recognize it. So we consider it as if somebody hacked the data. It's the same thing, right?
Christ.
So there's problems with that, especially for people in regulated industries, medical or otherwise. They can't put their data into the cloud, especially into the US cloud. Sorry, I should be specific, the US cloud, because it's under a different set of laws. So we keep it on-prem because that's what those folks are comfortable doing to meet their obligations in regulatory regimes. So there's a few different reasons, but yes, we still do that stuff. We still do that stuff these days. Could we put it all into the cloud? Yes. I mean, we could. I mean, that's a whole different story, right? I mean, that's where I've been saying for years. If you look me up in the various online groups, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever, you'll see me regularly. If you search me, you'll see me regularly say um, MSPs are in a race to become the best buy of the IT services world because that's what they are. They're just salespeople. Um, there's no technical competency really required anymore. When you want an email account, you click, you type the email account in, you hit next, and 365 makes it for you. And that's it. There's no technical requirement for this. I mean, somebody who can activate a cellular phone account for you can do the exact same thing for email. Whereas you would know this as an MCSE. Back in the day when you had to configure send connectors and you had to mount the Exchange database, you remember doing that stuff. I mean, there was some skill required in it and some knowledge, right? And that's just not required anymore. So, I would argue the MSP industry doesn't, the IT services industry is dead. The MSP services industry is nothing but a glorified sales position for the most part. They're just reselling other people's stuff, right? I mean, when you're just reselling Azure, what are you doing as a tech? There's a little config to do, but come on, when you compare that to the days of you and me 15 years ago or 20 years ago, that it's not the same thing. When you got shipped out to that story I always tell where you got shipped out to that remote site. What was it, 2 or 3 weeks into
Oh,
your
Pittsburgh.
job?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like that's not a thing anymore, right? People click online and if it doesn't work for some reason, oh, I'll help, and then they type into the field and Microsoft fixes it for them. And most times doesn't tell them even what they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So a lot of it's sales and people don't like this, but it is. I mean, the MSP industry is mostly sales. It's a rush to become the best buy of the IT services world. You're just reselling everybody's stuff.
So then, like with your technicians, then, like, so when you start ta saying like a tier three, like, what does that actually mean? Is that the equivalent of an old school MCSE, or is that just a really good salesperson?
No, no, no. We don't have any of those modern day IT techs that are just sales guys that just click and stuff, right? Because most of our stuff, a lot of it, well, I shouldn't say most, half of our stuff is on-prem, half of it's in the cloud, but certainly what we've got is not, simple standard point click and,
Yeah.
oh, look, I've got an Azure, we're good to go, right? We have to configure send connectors. That's still a thing. Outbound relays and anti-spam and all of that fun stuff. We're still doing all of that. Active Directory, on-prem, virtualization, right? So we usually use a type 1 hypervisor, whether that be VMware or Hyper-V, and all of our servers are virtualized, right? It's a private cloud. We do a lot of that stuff. IP phone systems. So I don't know of I've never run into somebody, in these groups or otherwise, who's still deploying on-prem IP PBX phone systems. We do. That's all we do. Everybody now is just paying per extension. I'm saying there again, once you get to, I think the crossover point is 4 or 5 extensions, it's cheaper to buy a system and just have it run. And like I said with Exchange, they just run. You don't have to do anything. They just run. Ours has been running for 10 years. The only thing we do is change names on the phones on the extensions when a new staffer comes in. We don't do anything else. It just runs. right? So you buy the PBX, but you got to configure the PBX. And well, I think you remember those days.
Yeah. So, but so you still use VMware. So, because isn't VMware caught up? So they got bought out by Broadcom. Isn't it Broadcom has just decided to truly fucking squeeze the blood out of you. Is that incorrect? Or
Oh no, it's on the really high-end license stuff. Like I remember most of our clients are in the SMB market. So we're talking about the lowest level of license,
Mhm.
right? The $500 license.
Okay.
So it has, and those are permanent licenses too, right? And
Oh, are they permanent? I thought because like with maintenance contract or support agreements.
yeah, I don't care about the support, the ongoing support, because they just run, right? Like I don't, the other thing is you don't need to, some people subscribe to the you always have to upgrade everything no matter what. Man, I don't give a shit if it's 6.5, update 2, update 3. It's a hypervisor, right? Unless there's some security reason to change it, fair enough. But if there isn't, we don't really upgrade those versions that often because there's no need to, right? It just runs. It's just a hypervisor. So, yeah, I mean, most of them we buy the 1 year support license and then don't really care anymore. And you got to remember, I mean, we've got hundreds of clients too, right? So we have access to support if we really need it, no matter what. But
Yeah.
yeah,
So then, so
but
when we
they
talk
have,
about
yeah.
the cloud service is kind of interesting because yeah, with the data regionality or whatever it's called. So did you know like does Microsoft or Amazon or Google are they providing you any options for that? Can you buy the Canadian Azure or the Canadian AWS where they all keep it up in that region?
Yeah, so I've been asked that too. What about putting the data to the cloud on different regions outside the US? Here's the thing. So I've looked into this. Um, Microsoft does have a Canadian data center region, and you can now, what piqued my curiosity was the word primary. So you can click for your primary data center to be in Canada. So okay, that's in what do you mean primary? What's the secondary? And actually, they won't tell you what the secondary is. They actually just won't answer that question. However, what they will tell you, because I've asked, is that Canadian data center gets replicated for disaster recovery and business continuity reasons. Where does it get replicated to? The backup sent to the US. So the
Okay.
only thing they guarantee is your primary production environment will be in Canada, but they don't guarantee that the backups don't go to the US or anywhere else on the planet for that matter.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
And then for you guys and the internet, because I know before last time we talked, you were talking about on-prem was important because your ISP was so bad, you called it bad, and then you got sued by your ISP.
Essentially.
So is your
That's fun.
ISP still so bad you'll get sued over if you talk about it, or
Oh, probably. No, it can't say specific things. But look, we do have two ISPs now. We got Starlink, right? Lots of our clients use Starlink. Starlink's awesome.
yeah,
Starlink's the best thing to happen to internet in the North in the last 20 years.
okay, yeah.
It's great. It's great. And it's a great service. It is an excellent service.
Hmm.
Um, we've gotten to the point speeds have increased. Costs has come down a little bit. We now have a real competitor in Starlink, which is great. So costs have come down a little bit. Um, I would say it's definitely better since last time we talked for sure. It is better. Um, is it at the point, however, where that's not an argument for on-prem anymore? No, I would say we're not at that point yet. We're getting there, but I'd say we're not at that point yet.
Hmm.
Um, so it is a consideration. I wouldn't say it's the consideration. I would say the number one consideration. I mean, the number one is regulatory if we have a client that's subject to that requirement, right? Um, the next one is going to be cost. It's all about cost. right? I
Okay.
mean, those subscriptions aren't cheap. Like there's a reason Microsoft and Amazon want you to subscribe to this stuff. It's because it makes them a lot of money.
Well, but do you offer like payment plan? Because I mean, the whole argument is it's $10 or $100 a month versus 10,000 or $20,000 up front. So do you like when I had my little whatever the fuck it was, we had a leasing agreement thing where we could actually sell the whole lease. Like, do you do that type of thing to bring that like a monthly payment or?
We offered that once, nobody cared. The Canadian business market is a little bit different, I think, than the US one, and this is where we differ a little bit. I think just in business and attitude is nobody wants a monthly payment. People would rather pay upfront and have something for a defined period of time. They don't want a monthly payment. And for those that do subscribe to cloud services, for us, it's annual. They don't want monthly. It's all annual subscriptions. So for those that do have 362, we do it on an annual basis. They do not want monthly.
Is there no like tax benefits? Because one of the arguments here in the US is how our tax system works. So if you buy $100,000 worth of hardware, you have a depreciation on the hardware, then the state can actually tax you because you now own $100,000 in assets. And it's a mess. Whereas if you do Office 365, you literally deduct that as you spend the money. Like, is your taxes different or people just don't care the same way?
We have the same thing in capital asset and then depreciation allowance, capital cost allowance, CCA, it's called. You're allowed, I believe you're allowed to depreciate 38% on electronic equipment every year. So I think it's 38, something like that. Maybe it's 28, something to that effect. It's some percentage. Um, Whereas if you have subscription based, yes, you're right. It's right off in that immediate moment in that fiscal year. What we don't have, and this is something a lot of Canadians don't know, and I think a lot of people around the world don't know. No, there's no property tax on that equipment. Property tax is on a real property, so real estate, a house, a commercial office, land. There's no property tax on vehicles. There's no property tax on equipment. That doesn't exist in Canada. I've told some people this, and they actually think I'm making something up. They don't. They think that's not real. I'm like, no, actually, it is. It is real. But we have no idea. Canadians have no idea that actually Americans pay those
Yeah.
kinds of property taxes. Like that kind of stuff is wrapped up into property taxes because we don't have that. It's just on real estate.
Oh, that's scary. So, okay, so when you're doing the on-prem stuff and you're selling, so I remember years ago, one of the reasons you said computer repair was still valuable, whatever it was 10 years ago when we had that conversation, is because it costs so damn much to even send a hard drive. Like you literally showed me it cost $40 to send you a $40 hard drive.
It's more now.
It's more. Yeah, well, you
More
showed
now.
me like the shipping cost, and it literally was. It was like $200 just to ship a Dell computer. So curious with you now in distribution channels. So we've had free trade or free-ish trade for God knows how long, longer than both of our lives, essentially. And so you've been buying from Dell. Basically, as you explained it before, you were purchasing from American distributors that then got shipped up to Canada. So now in this modern world where America is now paying 145% tariffs on crap that comes from China here, and then you guys are now paying 20% or whatever tariffs, are you now paying 165% tariff on a hard drive to get it, or do you have Canadian distributors?
So I'll just give an example because we're talking about this. I bought on March 3rd, or sorry, March 4th this year. So a month ago, about a month ago. I bought a server. It was $875. I paid $850 to ship it. And that actually wasn't that bad. That was pretty good actually. So yes, we pay a lot in shipping still. It's more than it used to be. Yeah, this is a problem. So this is the current. So there's two parts. I figured there's two parts we talk about, right? There's the MSP industry as a whole, which I think is a dumpster fire that's turned into just basically sales at this point. You're just reselling everybody's platforms. which is a problem. It's a problem for small MSPs, right? So us, for example, right? Like we come with whatever, say it's 3,000 seats for things. It doesn't get you much of a discount. And if you look at what's happening in the US and in Canada, there's a growing what they call mega MSPs.
Hmm.
And these are big, basically the equivalent of Best Buy, but as an MSP. And these are growing and they're growing exponentially, actually. Um, I think one of the ones in Canada is called F12, for example, right? For us, because what happens is you get pushed out when your money is all made in margins based on seat volume, and you're only coming with 3,000 seats, let's say, you don't get the same volume as somebody coming with 30,000 seats. So you don't get the discount, sorry, the discount that volume gets you. So it's hard to compete because you're basically competing on price now, right? We're talking about a commodity industry now. Um, there's an argument a little bit that some technical knowledge and skill set can differentiate you, but look, 80% of it is all based on price now. How much is it for this monthly license or annual license, right? So what we did is we're part of a few years ago, we joined a group that has it's businesses from all over the country. So there's one business in Vancouver, there's one business in Edmonton, there's one business in Montreal, Winnipeg, us in the Yukon, and we pool our buying, right? So these are individual IT service providers in their areas, but we combine our purchasing power. So we're not buying 3,000 seats anymore. We're buying with the purchasing power of 30,000 seats.
Hmm.
And that's one of the only ways to survive now in the modern day MSP world. Um, and if anybody's telling you different, they either don't see the writing on the wall or they have a very unique situation for some reason. But that is what it is. It's a volume game, right? Now, that's the industry of the last few years. Now you throw this into it on top, which, yeah, exactly. What does this trade war mean? Um, I don't know. I
Well,
think what we're seeing, what I we saw this basically coming down the pipe for a few months, right? I mean, we all knew something was gonna happen here. So I stocked up. I bought Surface laptops by the dozens. No, I actually rented a secure storage spot outside of our office because we don't have enough space there to store all this stuff. I probably bought, I don't know, $100,000, $150,000 of equipment. This is desktops, laptops, firewalls, switches, wireless access points, UPS battery backups, just like pallets of stuff. Um, because I wanted to have a period of time where we wouldn't be affected by it. So right now we can probably go a good 6 to 8 months with the inventory we have on hand. After that, I don't know. Right now, yeah, costs have gone through the roof. Like I've been told, so um, a certain laptop that we generally buy, okay, it's normally about 1,800 bucks. I've been told the once the inventory from that supplier has been exhausted because they had about, I don't know, 50 left or something. I was told that the next round is $2,700 per laptop. That's the price increase. That's my price increase from the vendor. That's no profit margin in my pocket whatsoever. Now, I mean, we all know there's no profit in hardware anyways, but that's the cost increase that we're looking at on a per machine basis. So yeah, I see two things happening. One, no one's going to buy anything for a while. Everybody's going to run their hardware into the ground just to see, if this gets resolved. And two, we're going to have to start importing direct from Asia, from these manufacturing countries. Because right now, the vast majority, I mean, I don't want to say it's 100%, but it's like 99% probably of electronic equipment, especially as it pertains to IT, comes through the US, right? It lands in Seattle or the Port of Los Angeles. Port of Los Angeles processes most of it, and then it comes on a truck into Canada. And because we've had free trade, that's never been a problem, right? It's those economies of scale and efficiencies of scale, right? Why land a boat in Vancouver and a boat in LA when you can just land a mega boat in LA and distribute from there? Who cares, right?
Uh,
Um, so I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we've got a federal election happening right now. So in 2 weeks, we will have a new government, whoever that is. And they'll have to make some decisions. And one of those may be we need to start looking at, the future of how we procure this kind of stuff. Do we still want everything going through the US? Is that something long term that's still viable? I don't know. I have no idea.
I mean, like, as a Canadian, I think that's one of the weird things with all this. Is again, to be clear, my opinion is my president has lost his mind. But what's weird with it, though, is how much dependency there is. Like the fact, like simply the fact, like you're not saying, oh, we have a Canadian Newegg, but they cost 10% more. That's why I buy it. The fact that you're like, no, like all the supplies, like, have you guys felt comfortable with that for the past couple of decades? Is that just something that never came up,
I just
or
think it wasn't really an issue. I mean, everything comes from, look, you buy something from Dell. I buy it from Dell.ca. It's the Canadian side of Dell. I'm telling you, it ships. All of them ship from the US. I've never had a Dell ship from Canada to me, but it's never been an issue because we have that free trade. It's not a problem, right? It's like ordering from the state next door. It doesn't. That's how it's always been treated. So it's never really been a concern. Now it's a concern because things have changed in trade that have historically, I mean, again, as you said, as long as you and I have basically been in this game, it's always been like that. It's just free trade and doesn't really matter where it comes from. You probably never thought of where it comes from, right? I mean, when you were racking servers, um, in that first job of yours, you probably never considered did these pass through Toronto? I don't know, Montreal. Did they did they show up on an airplane and land in Vancouver first? I don't know. Who knows? Who cares, right? Doesn't
yeah,
matter. Now with what's going on, it matters now because yeah, all of our stuff, I think inadvertently became more expensive. I don't believe it's on purpose. I don't believe the intent is to simply make us pay more for this stuff. I think it's a I think it's collateral damage, if you will.
yeah.
Right? You guys are doing something specifically trying to address China, and this is kind of the byproduct of that. And it's like, oh, well, okay, I guess that happened, right?
Right. So, I mean, are you getting any guidance from your government on what the hell to do about all this or what they're because I mean I think about it like if something's coming in from a port and you know it's coming in from a port, it seems like you could take a truckload of it from LA up to Vancouver and get it through the tariff. If you know the final destination is Canada and not the US, it seems like there should be a system for just sending it through. Is there anything like that you've heard about or
I don't, a lot of, because we have an election right now, everything's kind of up in the air, right? Everything's election mode, and you don't really get, I don't want to say we're not getting concrete information. That's not completely accurate, but we're in election mode, right? Until we have a government, um, nothing really, I mean, even anything anybody says, it depends who wins, right? So I think until we have settled our election and have a government in place, um, I don't think we're going to hear much concrete information that's going to be useful, even medium term. I think we're just not going to hear anything right now.
so how long, because I thought you guys had short elections. So I thought that was the whole. why everybody laughed at us is our election cycle was so long and
It
everybody was,
is. Yours is long. Well, yours is long because fixed dates, right?
yeah.
So people start early. Ours is on April 28th.
Oh,
That's
okay.
when we vote. Yeah.
So then, like, when you're looking at this again, like, it was interesting. I was down in Miami and I heard two people talking about why bosses didn't want to do work from home. And one of the reasons they said is that none of the bosses actually know what their KPIs are, so key performance indicators. So they don't actually know what the hell their employees are doing anyway. So having them in the office makes sense because then you can look over their shoulders. Like for you, like when this kind of situation happens, do you have like KPIs that you're looking at? Do you have like a single pane of glass for the metrics for your company to say whether you should start laying off, whether you should buy, or do you actually have numbers or is this all kind of gut feeling?
No, no, no. I mean, of course we look at numbers. I mean, I look at numbers all the time. Um, I mean, your business is your numbers, right? I
Yeah.
mean, that's when people talk about when these I'm going to call them wannabe IT business owners, especially on Facebook in these groups, these MSP groups. You can go on there and you can don't please anybody listening, don't copy what any of those people are doing. Um, those are just those are antisocial techs who can't hold a job, so they decided to start their own company and they made themselves a job. Okay, that's not a business. Okay, those are two different things. If you have an IT business or any business for that matter, the numbers are basically the only thing that matters, right? Your numbers are your business.
Yeah.
So we obviously, yeah, like I follow those quite closely, month to month. I mean, I don't knee-jerk react to stuff month to month necessarily, but yeah, I mean, of course, we look month to month. Um, we're a healthy company. We have a healthy profit margin. The thing is, most of our profit, and I would say this is true of any real IT service provider that's still around, your money's in your labor, right? I mean, your money is in your staff generating or completing work that generates you revenue. That's where most of it is. If your money is simply based on the minuscule markups on 362, or you're trying to make money selling laptops, it's either not a very good business or you deal with such volume that those razor margins actually matter. Um, so in that sense, what's happened is things will get more expensive for clients. And what'll happen is we'll just start selling less hardware. Now there's not a lot of margin in hardware anyway. So if let's say I sell $100,000 of hardware and it cost me $95,000, um, or if I sell $200,000 of hardware and it costs me $190,000, the profit margin is the same either way. So what I see happening is and you know what? Probably in the US with costs going up as well, because I mean the tariffs affect US buyers too. I think you're going to find a lot of people just not replacing equipment like they used to. Like this year, I don't see a lot of people buying a ton of laptops this year, right? I just don't
Yeah.
see that happening. I see it's kind of like during the COVID thing, right? When you couldn't get a new car. Remember that?
Yeah.
There was a shortage of was it the chips?
Oh yeah, yeah, the process. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And they couldn't make new cars. So what did people do? They fixed and hung on to the cars they had. Right?
Yeah.
They're like, oh, I got a 6-year-old car. I guess it's going to be a 7-year-old car. And they waited. I think you're going to see the same thing in IT. I think you're going to see or in the tech industry, people are going to hang on to their smartphones. They're going to hang on to their laptops. They're going to hang on to their monitors. They're just not going to buy as much, which is not good in the sense that, reduced spending is reduced economic activity, which is not as busy in the Best Buy. So, but I think that's what's going to happen. That's the primary thing that's going to happen is you're just going to have reduced buying.
But that isn't going to kneecap you as a business. So, like, when I had mine, and I've talked about it in the tech world, I mean, all the money's in fucking deployment. Like, maintenance, I mean, I guess you can have a bit. It's not a business I'd want, but like, I guess you can. So if you're not putting in servers and switches and building out, there's still enough of a business there on maintenance?
Oh yeah, like if we just did zero in hardware, you'd notice a little bit on the profit line, but not a lot. I mean, obviously the revenue line would drop, but I mean, so would the expense line because they're not equal, but they're pretty damn close. There's no money in hardware. So if you remove that, yeah, it's not a big deal. Most of our money, the vast majority of our money is made in labor, and that's supporting clients, right? My printer doesn't work. I need this changed. I got a new user coming on. Hey, I got a new software. Set it up. Hey, I'm rolling out this SQL, whatever. Um, yeah, it's just the support.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
interesting. So how much do you charge? So are you doing maintenance contracts or hourly?
Hourly. Nobody wants maintenance contracts. No flat rate, nothing. Nobody wants it. Tried it.
Fair.
Nobody wants it.
Fair enough.
Everybody wants hourly.
So what's your hourly rate up there? Or is it
$100
variable?
an hour. I charge $100 an hour, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The industry standard where I am, or sorry, the industry average where I am is 190. I charge 100.
Well, I mean, that's a lot of money to leave on this. That's a lot of money.
Um, you know what? We make good money. We pay our staff well. The business, honestly, the business is run well. I mean, I'm not here to boast or whatever, but it's run well. We don't waste money. There's a lot of waste in a lot of business, right? And that's where I think people who are good at business um, differentiate themselves from people who aren't. And we're really tight on our expenses. Our expenses are exactly what our expenses should be. We don't waste on anything. We don't buy something that we never use. I mean, how many clients out there, not ours, well, maybe some of ours, um, are paying an annual subscription for something they don't use, that the employee who used it hasn't been around for 6 years.
Yeah.
The worst one is Adobe. Adobe Creative Cloud, Illustrator, Photoshop. Do you know how many of those licenses I've stopped or gone through with clients and said, who uses this? And it's like Bob. And it's like Bob retired 8 years ago. Like he's retired. He's at home over there. And like he hasn't used it. And they're still paying $1,200 a year for this thing. Right. So we don't have a lot of that waste. We always, from day one, we always were really, really careful um, with that kind of thing, and we don't have waste. So I don't need to charge as much to make up for that, first of all. And second, it's we actually brought the average down. It used to be up in the 200s an hour before we showed up. We brought the average down, um, and we have enough clients, enough work that yeah, if we increase the rate, we could probably make some more money. But I mean, at the end of the day, we're a healthy business. I don't need to make that much more money. And we've got clients that we've had for 15 years since the day we opened, and they like us because we're fair and we're honest and we provide a good service, and I have no problem continuing that. So, yeah. I mean, originally our rate has gone up over the years. We started with 85. That's where we started. And it's
Right.
gone up to 100 from there.
I mean, 15 years. I mean, that's not much. Yeah.
No, it's not much. No. I mean, we acquired some of our competitors, right? So back in 2016, 2015, 2016, we acquired our largest competitor in the local market space, right? And they were charging 120 at the time. And we bumped everybody down to 100.
Oh,
And I can tell you, like, it wasn't meant for this particular, it was meant to streamline our billing because then everybody's at 100 and administratively it's simple to do, right? Um, the collateral damage to that was our clients loved us. Those clients loved us. They said, you just dropped the price by like 20%. I'm like, well, yeah, I guess so. So all of those clients are still our clients. Nobody's gone anywhere. They love us. So it worked out for that reason too.
so then, like with the price though, so you went from 85 to 100. So like, what are you looking like? What would take you to 105 or 110? Like what is the incremental? I don't know, you look at inflation rates, you just kind of look at your QuickBooks and like, eh.
Yeah, I think when there's a material change to what we're seeing in profit, in EBITDA, whatever figure you want to look at, um, and certainly when we start getting to a point where I mean, when staff labor has to go up substantially, I mean, that's a reason to. But as long as we can, I think we'll try and keep it where it's at and just find efficiencies, right?
Yeah, fair enough. So do you do any coding, any programming work for your clients, even web dev?
Sure do. Ruby on Rails.
Oh,
No
wow.
joke. I'm not joking. Ruby on Rails. Yes. Um, yeah, we build web apps, custom web apps for folks. Um, I don't know. It's really custom stuff. Like uh, I need to be able to put this list of people in with these particular metrics and properties, and then I need to be able to sort it, search it, plot it on a map, whatever the situation is. And yeah, we build custom web apps. Yeah, I'm actually normally we host a lot of them in Heroku, but some of those folks are wanting to bring stuff down locally. So what do I got here? I got a, ooh, I don't know. Can you see that? We can't see that. Hang on. I'm gonna kill my background. Give me a sec. Just background effects. None. There you go. This is, can you see
Oh,
that?
that's fine. There you go.
Yeah. So I got a project. I had to buy about 18,000 different um pieces to it, but I'm going to build a Pi cluster that can run this. There's a really simple web app that one of our clients use that, you know, literally you could run it on your smartphone. It's no problem. Um, but they don't want to have it cloud hosted anymore, so we will host it locally on a Pi cluster. So I've never done that before, and I bought all the parts and I got all the parts around me here. We're gonna see how that pans out.
That's cool. So why Ruby? Is it just what you learned 10 years ago, or is there value there?
Yeah, our senior tech did a course on it years ago, and that's what he likes to do. He likes the Ruby platform, so that is what we use, yeah. I mean, we do some stuff in PHP as well. But yeah, most of it, I'd say most of it's on Ruby.
Fair enough. And like, so if you're looking at like those projects, can you tell us like about what the price range for the project is? Is it like 1,000, 10,000?
Oh yeah, it varies. So we get everything from tiny stuff to 5,000, like 5,000 bucks up to pretty much like nothing's less than a few thousand bucks. You can't build something for less than that. I mean, it's all hours based, right? I think our largest one was 50 or $60,000. And again, it's all based on time, right? That was a 500-hour project. It's just based on time.
Okay. So how do you allocate? So if you've got like a normal MSP plus you're also doing coding, how do you allocate your employees in that kind of environment? Because one minute you go from your person having to just sit there and code to now they have to go out and do service calls to how is
Yeah.
that not?
Hey, this is great for everybody listening and anybody listening in the future on YouTube. You need to have a well-rounded knowledge. Um, most of our so we have level one and level two staff who are more on the IT side, I'll call it, right? They go and fix the printers, they go and do that. The folks who are paid more, okay, so that's I'll just say that's the bottom half of the staff, right? The more entry level staff. The second half of the staff, the more senior staff, they can do everything. So they may be fixing somebody's Outlook this morning, and this afternoon they're changing a web page, and tomorrow morning they're spending all morning building this thing in Ruby and working on it. To us, everything is just ours. I don't care if we're fixing a printer. I don't care if we're deploying a video surveillance system. We do lots of those too, video cameras. I don't care if we're putting Wi-Fi into a hotel. I don't care if we're building a web page for someone. I don't care if we're building a web app. I don't care if we're fixing an IP phone on someone's desk. It doesn't matter what we do. It's all tech work. It's all the same hourly rate. And at least for the senior folks, they're doing all of it.
But do they run into issues? Like that's when I had my thing. We did so many things, it became a fucking disaster just because like when you're encoding, you have a mindset.
Yep.
And you go surveillance cameras and you're getting your fish tape and your hooks and going up into the you don't run into issues with your employees about basically mentally shifting to these different tasks.
I mean, they're so like our main senior staffer who does the Ruby stuff, let's say, he's going to do the Ruby stuff for like half a day, right? Like, yes, he'll sit down and do that for half a day. We have enough staff where um, we have the coverage that's needed on the phones, right, for support requests coming in. Um, and they'll have to schedule their stuff. So obviously, if that staff member is coding in Ruby, we're not going to book a video surveillance system install that same day. We're obviously going to do that the next day or whatever, right? So yeah, I mean there is some, you know, scheduling, I guess if you want to call it that, that is required. And most of the, I mean, they're pretty autonomous. They're pretty good at it at this point with their flow and they know when things are coming. And of course, you know, project wise, when we look at the next 30, 60, 90 days, of course, we don't lump all the projects into one. So if we got three server deployments that are coming up, we're not going to do them all in the same week because, well, you know this one because you've said it too. The worst thing in IT is migration.
Yeah.
Going from an old server to a new one is awful. So we won't do those on the same week, of course, right? So if we got three server deployments, we'll do one this week, and then we'll probably do one 2 weeks from now, and then we'll do one 6 weeks from now or whatever, right? Um, so it's just managing that scheduling. But no, being able for them day by day, let's say, or even half day by half day to switch gears and stuff. No, they're able to do it.
Yeah, fair enough. So then let's switch gears a little bit. So I've been getting way too many fucking questions from people that are now finishing their cybersecurity degrees and have no idea how to get a job as they're walking out the door.
Oh man.
I know you guys actually do cybersecurity. You got a whole bunch of certifications. So one thing to ask, I've got my opinions on this. Do you care about cybersecurity degrees? If somebody came with a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity, how valuable is that to you?
Okay, so for just so everybody knows, I'll run through it. I'm a certified information systems security officer. I'm a certified disaster recovery engineer. I'm a certified incident handling engineer. I'm a certified penetration testing engineer. I'm a certified health information systems security practitioner. Yeah, that's right. Um, I hold a um, completion certificate from Harvard University's cybersecurity program, and I hold a completion certificate from York University, or it's called the Hall, um, Osgood Hall School of Law. It's from York University, which is in Toronto, here in Canada, from their cybersecurity program. So I've got a lot of education in this field specifically. Um, I do most of the cybersecurity stuff for us. That's kind of my role and has been for a few years now. If someone shows up with nothing but cybersecurity, I don't look at them. It's not useful to me. Listen, cybersecurity is a specialty within IT. This is like saying, I want to be a neurosurgeon, but I don't want to be a doctor. It's a specialty. You have to be an IT professional first, and you can specialize in cybersecurity at that point. If you just go get some cybersecurity, and I'm just gonna be honest, crap, because most of it's crap that people go and do. They go and do the $200 course and think that really matters. It doesn't. The real stuff costs a lot of money. Um, it's not really all that useful. You have to be an IT professional. You have to be able to work with systems. And if you can't, then your your cybersecurity degree is not really going to get you very far. There are some exceptions. If you have a security clearance because you were former active military or something, you may run into very specific niche circumstances that do allow you to succeed in a way that otherwise would completely fail. So I'm not saying it's impossible, but as a general statement, yeah, no. Cybersecurity only degrees with no other experience or skill set in technology. No.
So you're saying that with a degree. So I understand. So if they come in with a security plus, who the hell cares? But you're saying a 4-year degree, you're not even that interested in.
No. I mean, look, uh, even if you're going to go into a role at a corporation like a CISO, a Chief Information Security Officer, okay? Um, okay, maybe you don't have to be a tech per se for that kind of C-suite role. But what do you need? Well, you need some business sense. It's a C-suite role. Again, back to business, even big business folks, it's all about the financials and the money, right? A very common thing that people don't really pay attention to, especially these, IT MSP wannabes and these Facebook groups. Um, there's an analysis that gets done when you look at something from a cybersecurity perspective, and that is whatever I'm trying to protect worth more than the cost to protect it? If what you're trying to protect is worth $1,000 and it's going to cost you $5,000 a year to protect it, you're probably not going to protect it, right? And they're not going to teach you that in cybersecurity school. That's business. No, I'm sure they teach that in business school, to be honest. But that's a skill set outside of cybersecurity that you need to have. So you need to have something that's well-rounded, right? I mean, if all you have is cybersecurity and nothing else, again, some niche situations maybe, but on a whole, I don't see that being really successful. It's not something I would look at. And I have seen resumes that have come in that are cybersecurity only, and I just throw them out. They're not useful. The guy who's been working in his basement on his mom's computer and set up his cousin's Wi-Fi router is more useful to me.
Hmm. So what would you say to the people that have already gone through the program? They've already got the student loans or whatever. What would you think is a path to get them to actually be valuable?
Help desk. Tell everybody, help desk. Get a job in help desk and start getting some experience. You work a help desk job, 6 months, 12 months, whatever, move up from there, get into a little bit of networking. Maybe now you're in the server room, whatever. I don't care what it is. Get some experience in tech, right? You've got the paper. Okay, maybe you overpaid, maybe you did something you thought was different or would get you. I don't care, whatever, fine. Just go and start working in IT. Go get a job and start getting experience. That well-rounded experience is what's necessary. I mean, I'm I'm happy. I'm very happy, Eli, to see that you still have the CCNA on the toilet paper behind you. You have moved with that from Massachusetts down. I'm happy to see that. Um, that's exactly it, right? Like you go get a CCNA, it's not really worth anything. You need experience behind it, and you need some skill set behind it. You need to be able to prove that you can do something. That alone doesn't get you anything.
So like being there in Canada, so if somebody's going for education and certification and they're trying to get their foot in the door, one of the things I tell people is for whatever reason, geographically, different technologies take off in different places. Like, again, like Ruby on Rails is really popular west of the Mississippi. PHP was popular east of the Mississippi. Fuck knows why, it just was. So if you're like in Canada, because I do actually have Canadian students, like what are kind of like the core technologies you guys actually care about right now? Like like with programming languages, Python, is it Ruby on Rails? I don't know. Like
I see a lot of PHP. Definitely PHP is not a bad one.
Really?
to do. Look, we have, I'm going to be honest, we have such a shortage of labor market, kind of doesn't matter. If
Huh.
you speak one programming language, but if if I had to suggest something to somebody, I would say Java and PHP, just because they're so widely used, right? But you have either or both of those, you're going to get a job as a web dev anywhere in Canada. It's not a problem. There's such a shortage of labor market. You're not really competing with anybody. So
Really?
go
So
and
even now, because
do
like here in
that.
the US, we just dumped like 250,000 IT people that just found out they're not as valuable as they thought they were. Are you guys not? I guess you don't have big tech per se, so are you guys just not going through those massive layoffs?
No, we're not going through those massive layoffs. Nope. We do have some, like Microsoft has um a office, a larger office in Vancouver. I thought I saw. Let me look it up quickly. Vancouver Microsoft office news. No, I don't think they. Looking at the news, it doesn't look like they cut a bunch of people.
Hmm.
Um, in 2022, they moved into a 63,000 square foot office downtown Vancouver. That's about it. Yeah,
Okay.
there you go. So no, they didn't really lay anybody off. We don't, I mean, yeah, I mean, we don't have the labor force in the large multinationals, Google, Microsoft, Amazon, those folks. We don't have those many um, Canadians employed by those large companies, the Magnificent Seven, as they call them. Um, but yes, they do employ quite a few Canadians. But I mean, a lot of the Canadian employment base, it's in that kind of small to medium sized enterprise, right? I mean, medium sized enterprise is that's most of what makes up Canada. We don't have a lot of those mega corps to start with. So
Is that like a psychology thing? Like, do you guys just not aspire to conquer the world? I don't know.
I think it's just a population thing, and we're so spread out. Like, I mean, we're spread out like you guys are in the U.S., of course. I mean, the United States is a large country too, but I mean, you have 10 times the population, right? So we just don't have the population base for it. So yeah, we don't have a lot of really large companies like those enterprise companies that like. We start talking enterprise at about 600 employees. That's what's enterprise in Canada, not 6,000 or more, right? We just don't have many. So, yeah, just something we don't do.
So with you guys in your tech sector, like if you wanted to become the next Bill Gates of Canada, whatever that actually looks like. So like for large cities, you've got Vancouver, you've got Montreal, you've got Toronto. Like, do you need to move to one of those large, I guess mainly Toronto, do you need to move to like a larger city to become successful for your career to take off or
I mean, it depends what you're doing. It depends. Like, let's see, the Canadian tech baby right now, right, is Shopify. Shopify is the new BlackBerry.
Mhm.
And let's look, they're founded in Ottawa. So they're in Ottawa. So they're close to Toronto, close to Montreal.
Oh, they in
Uh,
Ottawa?
yep.
Oh.
I thought they were in Waterloo for some reason, but I know BlackBerry's from Waterloo. But anyways, um, I mean, they have staff everywhere. They have staff in Vancouver. Um, see if it tells us where else they have offices. They have office space in Toronto. Yeah. So yeah, I mean they're kind of in that center of the country. Um, yeah, do you need to? I mean it depends how much you're scaling and how much how much you need. For them, it probably makes sense to be in that Southern Ontario area, just because of what they're doing, and I believe they're publicly traded. So it makes sense for them because they have easy access to government. They have easy access to Bay Street, which is Canada's Wall Street. They've got access to that whole labor market that's there, just the population base that's there, right? Um, but no, I mean, as an employee, as someone who's not founding the next Shopify, let's say, um, go wherever there's opportunity. I mean, for me, back when I turned 18, right, it was the North. The North was the opportunity. It was a lot easier to get ahead being in the North, and that's where I ended up. Worked out for me. Um, but yeah, no, you don't need to be in a large city. I mean, again, we're looking at our labor market is just so tight, and if you've got a skill set, you got some education, you got some experience, it doesn't really matter where you are. You're needed anywhere. I mean, if you're a medical professional, if you're an RN, if you're a registered nurse, you can work anywhere in this country, in any hospital, anywhere. You can go wherever you want. You'll just be snapped up.
So then where, so back in the day, if you wanted a job, you put your stuff onto Monster. And then for a while there, it seemed like Indeed. Like where do
Indeed.
the cool kids put their resumes now?
Canada Job Bank is one. So the federal government has a job bank, and employers have to use it if they want to hire foreign workers, whether that's a temporary foreign worker or whether it's, postings for someone to. There's programs called the nominee program. It's an immigration stream that allows you to get permanent residency status through employment, basically. So you apply, your employer applies with you, basically says, I need this person as an employee because I can't find anybody else who's already here. Um, if the government green lights it, then that employee has to work for you for a period of time. It's usually a few years. They don't have a choice. And at the end of it, they get their permanent residency. So there's that. Um, yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So with that, is that as brutal as ours? With I know our work visas, that's the whole thing. When people were getting laid off, they had 90 days to find a job or get the hell out. Are you guys nearly that cruel?
It's similar. I think worldwide, I don't think it's just our two nations. I think worldwide we could clean up how we deal with immigration. It is a mess of paperwork that, quite frankly, I don't think anybody, including governments, totally understand. Like, I think it's one of those things you could work in it for 30 years and be like, oh, I've never seen this form before. What's form 17-A6? Never seen that before, right? It's just ridiculous. We need to simplify that. We need to make it easier. We need to leverage some, it's not really AI, but leverage some AI to organize this stuff properly and create some systems that streamline this where it's not like, hey, you sent in these 18 forms, but you missed form 19, so screw you, right? Like, really? Come on. Yeah, no, we all suck at that. At least all Western nations that I've seen, we all suck at
Yeah.
that.
So in your 15 years, have you hired outside people, foreign nationals to come in?
I have gone through the nominee program. They were already in the Yukon.
Okay.
I hired someone from the Czech Republic.
Hmm.
That person, he was already in the Yukon. He was on a work visa. I believe it was, I don't know, I might be wrong on this, but he was on a 2 year open work permit. What that is they're allowed to work for anybody for a period of 2 years. And then once he was employed by someone, if that employer was willing to go through the nominee program, they could. So we made an application to nominate him. That's why it's called a nominee program. We nominated him for permanent residency. The government then does what's called the labor market survey in LMS. Um, they basically, they do it all. You don't really see it. It's all in the background. Basically, they look and make sure you're not trying to commit fraud or some shit, or you're hiring someone for which there's already people in Canada looking for that job, kind of thing. They do their due diligence, let's call it, on their end, and then they go through the process. It takes a while, and then the open work permit is changed to a nominee program. And once that person, in his case, it was 2 years, once he had completed 2 years of employment with us, they gave him his permanent residency card.
Oh, that's cool. So going through that, were there any good or bad? Were there any unforeseen issues or quirks with the process? Where you're like, oh, that's undocumented.
Um, I mean, it's a government process, so I'll say there's always kind of some weird stuff that pops up. But no, actually, there's a dedicated group within the territorial government that works with the federal counterparts, so they kind of play a lot of interference with that. Yeah, there's a few, you have to go in and meet with them and certify all the forms and all that stuff. But it's actually not that big of a deal. It's pretty straightforward to do.
It's kind of cool. And so, are you guys still part of the Commonwealth with that whole thing where Aussies and Brits and you guys can all travel to each other's countries and work for like 2 years? Is that still a thing?
The queen, or I guess the king now, is on our money. Yes. Um, yeah, I don't know how that's. I actually don't know if you wanted to go work in the UK, for example. I don't know how that works. I can tell you, you need a visa now to visit the UK as a Canadian. I had to buy visas when we went.
Do you
That's
not?
new. That's new this year. You have to get a visa. It's, I don't know, $15 or something, and you just apply online. But yeah, you have to get a visa. So no, I think worldwide, what I see going on right now worldwide is um, a retracting from basically what I'm going to call open work, right? So being able to just go to the UK and just work without a lot of difficulty. I think worldwide we're seeing a trend right now on pulling that back a little bit. I think what we're going to see medium to long term is a return to that, where it's a lot easier, right? Like the EU, where if you have an EU passport, you can go work in any EU country you want. You basically don't have to do anything, right? And that was one of the gripes in the UK with their Brexit vote, right? They didn't like that. So I think you're going to see it for a little while where that's pulled back a bit, but I see that going back. I mean, look, it's a global economy, right? I mean, we talk about landing IT goods in the US and sending them to Canada because there's actually cost efficiencies in doing it that way. We're going to have a whole lot more of that where it's just going to be open. Maybe not right now, but I think we're headed back towards that.
Fair enough. So yeah, so anybody who's now watching, you can raise your hand in Zoom, and if you have a question, you can ask Martin Lehner a question. Get your poor little hopes and dreams about cybersecurity utterly shattered by somebody other than I. So yes, you can still do that. That's one of the points of doing this and having you all here, so you can actually ask him some questions. Still got some more though. We'll keep going for a while. AI. So AI is the big deal. Do you use AI for anything?
Not a whole lot. A little bit. I mean, a little bit. The large language models aren't bad when you need to get something like, I don't know, you're drafting some kind of a policy or something. The large language models are pretty good for that. Um, some clients, very few, I'd say 5% of our clients, 10% at most, but I think that's being too generous, are playing with Copilot. I'd say half of them are kind of like, ah, this is shit. I don't need to pay for it. I'd say the other half are kind of using it. You got to be really careful with these AIs, right? I mean, it's not true AI, right? What we call AI is not AI. But the problem with some of these things is, you know, we don't use teams internally. We don't use teams. The larger group that we're a part of as a business uses it. Um, and I watch it and like Copilot, anything you put on Teams is ingested by Copilot, right? And it gets aggregated and it gets sent up and processed. Like nothing you put in there is really private anymore. And I know, we say nothing really on the internet's private, but this stuff is actively being used. It's being aggregated, it's being consumed. Um, it's being processed. If you actually look at Microsoft's terms and conditions on a lot of their products, you give them the right to use all of this stuff that you put in there. And yeah, you got to be careful with some of this stuff because you might inadvertently leak some data or share something you really weren't intending to share with, a provider, let's say. I don't know, HR stuff, whatever. And we have to be careful with that stuff. But otherwise, no, on AI, we don't really use any of it beyond that.
Really? For like the MSP stuff. So again, theoretically, AI, again, if you're scanning networks or doing a lot of like patch management and things, you would think AI-ification of that, at least whether or not it works, I don't know, but at least it makes sense to try to do that. Are you seeing AI being put into, just the normal maintenance procedures, preventive maintenance, that type of deal?
I mean, no, because it's already, we don't fully automate it on purpose because
Oh,
that's just me and I like looking at that stuff, right? Um, but, we use an RMM, right?
yeah.
Oh boy, what is it? Remote management and
Monitoring.
remote monitoring management.
That's what.
Our RMM for years can self-install patches, right? We don't do it on servers. We do those manually. We do them on the workstations. So it does it on its own. It rolls all that stuff on its own already. That's not AI. It's just an automation tool. Could you use AI, I guess, to do it better? I'm not sure what you'd use AI for in that sense. Again, just because we already use it. I mean, sorry, we already automate it. Um, so yeah, I'm not sure what the advantage would be. There probably is in some specific models, but yeah, for what we're doing, it's not really not huge yet. And I mean, there's some others like I've played with one like an AI to build a website. Okay.
Yeah.
So I mean, hey, if an AI could build a website instead of us building it, obviously there's labor saved. The problem is it's okay. It's kind of like transcription software, right? So if you were to run this meeting, this interview we're having through transcription software, it would probably get it about 90%, but it would come up with some weird words, right? Like especially names of places and things like that. And you get the same thing with AI in general. So you have them do a website, yeah, it mostly looks good, but for some reason the column on the right is half cut off. There's no reason for it. So now you're hunting down that bug that the AI didn't do right, which
Yeah.
sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes is faster to just write it yourself. Right? Or use a template or something like that, right? So I don't think we're certainly not at a point yet where AI truly replaces a lot of things. It helps. It is a help in some things. I will say for certain things in graphics, it's great. Like here's a picture, remove the background.
Yeah.
That actually works really well. Or here's an image, make the background transparent so I can insert it into a PowerPoint or something, right? That stuff is useful for sure. Um, but the other stuff, I don't think we're quite there yet. And just from client feedback, most people aren't interested in the Copilot. Those who are, it's kind of a half and half on whether it's actually useful and worth the money because it's not cheap. The Copilot license is not cheap.
How much? I thought they brought it down to free, or I get confused with their pricing.
It depends on the, yeah, so it's included in some instances of when you get to the higher packages of 362. Um, when I last time I added it on, it was like 600 bucks a year.
Wow, for the company, for the whole company.
No, no, for one user.
Like shit. Oh
Yeah,
man,
yeah, yeah,
that's
for one
gullible.
user. The last one I added on. Now that client's using a lower level. I think they're on. It might be 362 Business Basic or something, but yeah, it was a $600 add-on for them. So it's it's not cheap for one user, and if you don't get real value for it, then right.
So have you thought that with AI, I mean, again, you've got however many clients you have spread all over the place. So the one of the ideas is, I mean, you can have like a 24/7 customer service bot, essentially. Does that interest you at all? Or
It's not useful for me. My clients want to talk to somebody. They don't want to talk to a bot.
really? Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I have one tree in my auto attendant, so you call into my phone number and it will give you one option to press one or two. And I can tell you some client, very few, it was very few, actually got really pissed about that because they wanted the phone to just ring and someone pick it up. Right. So it's just one option. And to be honest, if you pick either of the two options, it's just one is more for kind of the website, if you have website or web dev problems, or web app problems, and the other one's more the general IT, but it still goes to kind of the same group. It just, if you go the web app problem, it'll target the certain staff that can deal with that. That's all it is. But no, they won't use it. No one will use it.
Yeah.
Nope. They
Do you
want
think
to
that
talk to somebody.
do you think that's like a generational thing? Do you think in 10 years it'll change? Or it's like, no, you're Northerners. You speak to people.
I I don't even know if it's so much of a northern thing because we get that in our southern office too, where it's the same thing. I think what it is a part of it's probably generational. There's an element to that for sure. I think it's more the service we provide is we just come in and fix something. So when something's not working, somebody wants it fixed. They don't want to self-serve fix it. That's the thing with those bots, is it's kind of a self-serve, right? I don't, and the other thing with those bots, and this is not so much a problem of the platform and the technology. This is a problem of how it's been rolled out over the years. So those chat bots have been around for years, right? On websites. Cellular companies have them. They're useless. They can't do anything. You ask them something like, hey, my bill's wrong. Hey, would you like to look at your bill? Click here. No, 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 it's wrong.
Yeah.
Oh, it sounds like you're having trouble. Yeah, I'm having trouble because my bill's wrong, right? So they can't fix what you need fixed. So I think a lot of people find them to be a waste of time, right? Like they can't fix my problem. Like I'm not asking like, oh, I'm interested in your services. Could you tell me more? It's like, no, I need support, and I need support because something's broken. So I want someone to fix it. So they don't want to waste their time talking to a bot that can't fix their problem because they're in whether the bot can or not, they already have it in their heads that the bot can't. I think that's been ingrained over the years of these useless chat bots on these websites that I don't think should have them because I don't think they do anything. Um, so no, they want to talk to somebody who can fix it.
Yeah. No, well, fair enough.
David says, as he wrote in the chat, as experienced dev, I use AI often, mainly as rubber duck on architecture and planning, and also helps me find bugs, but I do not let it just write my own code. Yeah, I mean it's an assistant, right? The AI at this point, at least for me and what I use it for, it's an assistant. Like it helps me develop sometimes some policies and get some language that I might not know, right?
Yeah.
Well, you've been saying this for years. If you were getting into the IT sector, you would get your Juris Doctorate.
Yeah, that's
Because
what
because that is there's a huge element and that is going to become especially I mean for sure in Canada I don't know what it's like in the US but law around data and data privacy and all that stuff and what gets done with your data. I mean, 23andMe just went bankrupt. right? We don't know what's happening with all that data that they have. I think you're right. Law in the digital world is something that's quite frankly kind of Wild West at this point. I think it still is Wild West. And I think that yeah, I don't know how that's gonna end up in the end. I think we're catching up with a lot of the law still that's not ready. And yeah, I think there's huge opportunity for those um, who are getting into that side of the field for sure.
So then, okay, so you've been doing this for like 15 years now. And as I tell people, at a certain point, it all gets tiring and boring. You walk in, you're like, yay, I can slap in RAM. And then after a while, you're like, oh, this sucks. So what's your next progression? I mean, do you plan to just do this until you literally retire? Do you plan to like sell it off? Do you plan to grow it to 1,000 stores?
I don't know. I'm not growing it insanely. We just don't have the staffing capacity. Like when you start getting into 20, 30 employees, especially skilled employees, um, it's no, you can't do it. I mean, well, again, as you always say, having staff is a pain in the ass to start with. And yeah, getting to that size, no. We're at the size that we're at. We'll take clients on for sure. I mean, we can take clients on. We have that option or that capacity for sure. But growing staff like crazy, I no, I'm not doing that. Not at this point. Not with the labor market the way it is. The problem you get into with that kind of thing is now you need bigger office space, more office space. You incur more expenses and more liabilities that your exposure is just greater. Look, if we lose one staff member, which actually we did a few weeks ago, who went on to go work for government, just for say. You lose one staff member, fine. We try and find a staff member. If you're a team of 30 and you lose six staff members or seven, I mean, this is a bigger problem, right? Replacing seven people is a lot more work than replacing one. And I think, yeah, in this labor market at this point in time, I don't think that's a lot of fun. That might change in 20, 30 years. Again, 20, 30 years ago, different story because the labor market was different. But just with what's going on, nope. I mean, as for what I do, I mean, look, I don't I still do quite a bit of tech work. I mean, most 90% of what I do on the tech side now is all cybersecurity related. That's what I do, right? So I look when breaches do occur or people call us and say, I've had a breach. Can you come look at it? I mean, that's all the stuff that I do. So that's kind of interesting. I like doing that. Um, but I mean, I manage the staff. That's sorry, I don't man. I babysit the staff. Can we say that? Are we allowed to say that here? I babysit the staff. Sometimes that's what it feels like. No, I manage the staff and I do kind of all the cybersecurity stuff. That's kind of what I do. Um, do I need to set up another printer in my life? No, no, I don't.
Do you see like an MBA or a Juris Doctor in your life for the next steps, or
I don't know. I got these cybersecurity. I went through these cybersecurity programs at these universities, and they're good. And I think there's a lot more to do. I've also done a bunch on insurance. Insurance is very interesting when you start talking about cybersecurity and cyber insurance. It's interesting because it's kind of the first in your and my lifetime, probably in your and my lifetime, it's the first insurance product that was really new. Nobody really knew what it was. They wrote these policies. They were dirt cheap. You could get 10 years ago, you could get a cyber policy for $1 million for like $150. It was an add-on to your commercial general liability, your CGL, right? Now they're all separate policies. They're not add-ons anymore. And what happened was all these insurers were like, hey, this is basically free money. This cyber crap, who cares? It's just free money. And then they had to start paying out. Target and all those big ones, they had to pay out and they lost money. And you know, insurance companies, one, don't like to lose money, and two, they generally don't lose money, right? It's kind of like a bank. They don't really lose money either. Um, so they've changed that whole world. Now those cybersecurity policies, they're actually separate policies. They're not part of your CGL. And they're very specific when you actually read those things. Like there's things you have to do in there that a lot of people don't do, and they don't realize until they have to try and make a claim. And the insurer goes, "Oh, show me your last, 12 months, trailing 12 months of vulnerability tests."
Yeah.
I don't have that. Oh, well, not paying out, I guess. You can't provide that. It's right there, section, 26.2. You have to
Oh,
do them every 3 months.
yeah.
So that's kind of we're doing a lot of that and getting more into that whole I mean I'll call it just regulatory, right? And governments. I mean governments are clamping down on regulatory, right? There's more rules that are coming out, particularly as it pertains to healthcare, but finance as well. There's rules that are coming out. I see a bunch coming out in terms of HR soon, like your HR data and how that has to be protected and what people have to do what employers have to do to protect that kind of data. Um, so I see a lot of that stuff coming down the pipe, which, to be honest, it's not really a tech thing. It's more of a law slash organizational thing, right? So that's definitely, I think, a growing field. Yeah. Yeah. And that's what I think I'll be doing a lot more of.
So in Canada, then, like, so here in the US, they just pass these damn laws and then you figure it out. They pass something, you don't even know it got passed, and then you're getting sued for something you didn't even know you were supposed to do. Are you guys better with it up there? Like, if these new policies come through, let's say for HR, security, would you even know that this has happened? Would you know where to get the rules to follow?
So we launched, let me get the dates here because when did it come out? Toolkit? What was it? Enact. In 2016, um, came into force. Yeah. So in 2016, which I guess is almost 10 years ago now, it's not that new. We created something called the Health Information Privacy and Management Act, HIPAA, in the Yukon. And this was a new piece of legislation to govern basically healthcare information, right? And with that, yeah, no, there was a lot of discussion. Um, we actually got brought on. I was brought on by the government of Yukon, by the territorial government, to run through um, not regulations. They basically had a checklist that they were creating. Um, for entities that were in the healthcare sector. In the healthcare sector, all entities, pharmacists, doctors' offices, they're all connected through something called the Yukon Health Information Network. And what this is it's basically information sharing so that if somebody's going to multiple doctors and getting the same prescription over and over and over again, that gets caught. Basically, is the idea, right? So, with that Yukon Health Information Network, they created a set of obligations, so like security standards, if you will, right? It's kind of like a checklist. So, like for example, one of the things you have to have on there is you have to disable the ability to use USB thumb drives on any computer that has access to health information, right?
Huh.
Like it just drills it down. That's just one example, but it drills it down to that. And they brought me in actually to run through this checklist, these obligations to see if they made sense and then communicated them all out to everybody. It was fairly good. I mean, could it, of course, be better? Yeah, I mean, it can always be better. It's government, right? But they did do a pretty good job, I would say. Yeah, it wasn't a complete dumpster fire by any means.
Fair enough. All right, so we're wrapping up. We're getting close to the end. So, folks, everybody at home, my wife and I were having this joke about, hey, what if you have a 2 hour conversation and nobody asks a question? There's 15, there's 15 of you. Do you have any questions? I'm literally bringing a 15-year-old professional or 15-year-old, 15-year professional here. There we go. Okay, we got Robbie. Robbie has a question. What's up, Robbie?
Hey, I was wondering if there's any way you can take advantage of the exchange rate if you've ever thought about expanding into Alaska or else just picking up American customers and providing service because apparently your billing rate would look really advantageous to, U.S. clients or, if you wanted to expand into Alaska, would you have to incorporate in the U.S. or, I mean, just curious if there's any thoughts on that.
I've looked at it, particularly with Alaska. Juneau's an awesome place, by the way. Juneau's a really cool town. I'd live in Juneau if it was on the Canadian side. It's a really cool town. We've looked actually at offering service into Juneau. The problem is not the company itself. There's costs, yes, of course, extra, extra national, which means external to the nation, registration as a corporate entity and all that stuff. Um, there's cost to that. That's fine. The issue is the individuals. If you're just going to hire an American, like an Alaskan, and just pay them, that's not that hard. The problem is if you have a Canadian that goes into Alaska and crosses the border to do work. The work permit and visa complication um, is not worth it for a small business. At the end of the day, it was quite complicated when I looked at it the last time. And it's even more complicated. There's weird things. Like, for example, if you're going down to fix something and you're charging somebody, that's one thing. If you're going down to fix something under warranty and you're not actually charging the client, that's something completely different. You can actually have a permit that allows you to go down to actually charge someone money to fix something. But if you're doing it under warranty, you're actually offside and you're not allowed to actually do that. That's a different permit. Yeah, it's kind of crazy, actually. Um, so yeah, we decided not to. It's not something a small business can really, um, it's not worth doing as a small business. But I'd love to, yeah. I mean, Alaska was always a market that we would have loved to enter into. And like I said, Juneau's an awesome city.
Do you think there's much money in Juneau? I mean, like how, because that's got to be a pretty small place too.
It's a state capital that has
Like 3 million.
uh, population of Juneau, 31,000. So it's about the same size as Whitehorse, to be honest. And it's the capital, state capital, right? And they've got the smallest Costco on the planet.
Fair
It's
enough.
it's it it was a test. Uh, Costco decided to do a test and build a store that was roughly half the size of every other Costco store for a smaller market to see how it would do, and that was the test area was Juneau. Yeah, we've gone many times and shopped and brought stuff back. That's the closest Costco to Whitehorse.
Fair. Yeah, I guess with tariffs and that stuff now, like, is that going to be a problem? Like, because you've talked about that before about going over and coming back. If you go over to Costco and come back, is that going to be a disaster now?
That's okay. The personal exemption limits if you're just traveling. So right now, if you're gone out of the country for more than 48 hours, each person can bring back $800 Canadian worth of goods,
Okay.
um, duty free.
Yeah, yeah.
That's still the same. None of the personal exemptions have changed whatsoever. It's still duty free.
All right. Cool, cool.
You just might pay more for the item in the U.S. because you know
That's
the
fair.
tariffs have flowed through, and now that item costs more money. But yeah, it's still $800, and that hasn't changed.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of curious talking with you though. I hadn't really thought about that. But you've talked about that in the Yukon where things are already more expensive. I mean, is that going to be catastrophic to those people in Juneau and Anchorage? I mean, if the
It
cost
may
of,
be for Alaskans. Yeah, for Alaskans, I see their prices going up crazy. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. I mean, I don't know what the whole tariff thing ends up in. I'm not sure. I mean, you know, costs go up for everybody. The question is, does that mean that people are just all paying more, or does that mean that people won't buy stuff?
yeah.
And I don't think we know until we see what happens. Um, but yeah, I mean, It is a strange situation.
Because for you, like, so not housing or whatever, but like the cost of milk or whatever, like about how much more expensive is it for you than if you were in Vancouver or Montreal or something?
It's very similar in Whitehorse. Whitehorse has road access, so we're luckily very, very similar.
Oh, really?
Um, Let me show you what it is in the actual Arctic. So I'm not in the Arctic Circle. I'm below the Arctic Circle, and I have road access. Very, very good road access. Actually, courtesy of the U.S. military, who built the Alaska Highway back in World War II. Um, so we have trucks that bring in all of our food and all of that stuff. But let me pull this up. This is what. There we go. So in most of the Arctic in Canada, there's fly-in communities, right? They don't have road access. So, oops, I can't due to admin restrictions.
Oh,
Here,
you
well,
want to
why
share?
don't you pull this
Well,
up?
here, I'll just let you share. Screen share. There you go.
Oh, sure. Let's screen share. Um, Copy image address. Put that into here. One sec. Zoop. Paste and go. Now let us share a specific screen window, application window. There we go. Ah, can you see that?
I can see double click to enter. Okay, so I see a Gregson. What the fuck?
Yeah, so that's in a flying community. This is a few years ago, by the way. This is in 2018. A watermelon, which weighed, I don't know, 7.5 kilos. What is that in pounds? Uh,
It's like 6 pounds or something.
and it's like 16 pounds.
Oh,
Yeah,
kilograms. Kilograms is two.
yeah. So
Yeah.
16, so a 16-pound watermelon, yeah, was 78 bucks. And that's in 2018, right?
Hmm.
So that's what people pay in fly-in only communities. We don't pay that. We pay probably 10% more than you would find in the South.
Okay.
It's not that bad.
What the hell?
Yeah.
What are people doing in these flying communities? Are they like mining gold? Like how?
No, most of them live in poverty, to be honest with you. Um,
Oh,
let's see, none of it, food prices. Let's find some other ones. Images. Uh, 72 bucks for this is probably 12 cans. Yeah,
oh,
12 cans. 12 cans of orange crush. It's just an orange pop. That's
yeah.
72 bucks. 26 bucks for a Tropicana juice. That's less than a gallon.
Yeah.
Grapes, 28 bucks. Kraft peanut butter, 11 bucks.
So, but like with Canada, like again, our government spends a lot of money on stupid crap, but it does spend money on trying to normalize these kind of prices. Does Canada not have some kind of system to try to, I don't know, make soda
Yeah,
not?
there is a sub these are subsidized prices. So the vendors actually get a subsidy for the transportation of these goods, and this is still what it costs. Yeah, we don't
That's a subsidized price.
yeah, we don't do a very good job of this. I mean, 24 pack of Nestle water, it's 104 bucks,
Oh my God.
right? So,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we don't do a very good job of those programs. We need to relook at that stuff. But all the stuff is flown in, right? I mean, you're flying these into very small communities that don't have a lot of population. Most of them are somewhere between, well, most are less than 5,000 people. A lot of them are less than 2,000 people. So it costs a lot to bring this stuff there.
But how do those communities still, it's like even just functionally survive then? I mean, if you're saying they're
A lot of
impoverished,
it's on a lot of it's on the land hunting and
yeah.
things like that. Um, Sustenance, fishing, hunting on the land, uh, what do they call it? Country foods, right? Stuff that you hunt yourself. That's what you got to do in those areas. You have to, right? And I mean, these are mostly indigenous populations that have been there for,
Yeah.
hundreds, thousands of years, right? So they're used to eating that kind of stuff. But yeah, going to the grocery store in some of those areas, that's expensive, very expensive. Thankfully, we have road access, and that's the reason why you can live in the Yukon, is because we have that road access. We've got a very good road network, the best out of any of the three northern territories, for sure. And
Oh,
Alaskans use it all the time. Most truck traffic is driving through the Yukon to get to Alaska. That is what we do.
oh yeah. Before the final questions here, anybody else at home have a question?
Come
You're
on,
still,
someone asked Eli um, to recount his days as a booth babe for Plixer at Cisco Live. Where's that sword? I haven't seen that sword in years. You still have it?
oh yeah, it's up. I don't know if you can see
Oh,
it.
good.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
still got the Plixer sword. See? Come on, folks.
yeah.
The
Yeah.
Plixer sword.
Uh, oh yeah. Well, they're not asking a question. You can raise your hand until it's over. We got a
So
clap.
somebody asked, if you could start from zero right now, what would you do differently?
There you go.
Hey,
Ooh, that's a
so
good
I
question.
think you guys can hear me. Hey, so I missed the beginning, so apologize if you covered it. But I saw the example of the Raspberry Pi cluster that you were talking about deploying, and that looks like something that's going to take a few hours to kind of figure out, get going. And so the question really is like, how did you get to the point where you were able to find customers that had essentially the budget to pay you those hours at your rate of 100 an hour or more? So really, how did you scale up to that point where you can take on a project of unknown time, for example, the Raspberry Pi cluster, and then be able to not eat those hours in the long run?
Sure. So, I mean, that's a client we've had for a long time. This is a multi-year client that we've had. They run an instance of a web app on the cloud. It's actually on Heroku. And they want to move it just because of what's going on and data privacy. I mean, there's a lot that's changed in respect to data privacy for non-Americans, so for non-citizens. Going back to the first administration of Trump's, so there is in certain circumstances, and I mean, just based on if clients want, um, they don't want to have their data in the U.S., certain data in the U.S., right? So in this case, they wish to move that web app that's currently in Heroku. They want to move it to something local, and they're fine to host it themselves. And quite frankly, it's not a very resource intensive one, so they're going to save on the hosting costs on that with this. Um, they're not paying really for me to figure it out. That's kind of, I'm just doing that. You got to realize when you reach a certain size in business, um, and I mean, we have a few hundred clients. We're an eight-figure business at this point. Um, we're able to do this kind of stuff. Like I'm able to buy this stuff and figure it out and then go, hey, here's the option. Here's what we should do. Here's how much it cost. The cost of all this stuff wasn't really all that much, and I'm sure I can figure it out. Um, and I knowing this client and having the relationship we have with them, I know they're going to go ahead with it. If we say yes, this is something that could work, it's going to be reliable, it'll be fine. They will go ahead and purchase it. So I'm not concerned about that. But yeah, certainly, I mean, it's that economy of scale thing. We have enough clients that yeah, I can do that. If you only have three clients, it's a lot harder to, hey, I'll buy a server and play with this and see if I can get it working because that may actually be a substantial amount of money in relation to the size of the business at that point, right? So, and that's where I say early on, mitigating expenses and being really careful with waste is exceptionally important. I mean, it's exceptionally important anytime, but it's exceptionally important in those first few years when you don't really have a lot of money to waste, right? I mean, losing $1,000 is really material. Um, you, look, $1,000, $1,000. I'm not saying it's not worth anything, but if I were to lose $1,000 this month, okay, I lost $1,000. It's not going to bankrupt anything or cause us to not make any money in any given month, right? But back when I only had three clients, yeah, $1,000 was a big deal. That was a really big deal. So yeah, in those early years, you just got to focus on being accurate with everything and not having waste and being efficient and just plugging along and growing.
So,
Um, yeah, back to that other question that if I could start from zero, what would I do differently?
yeah,
Um, that's a good question. I mean, it's a different industry. Like Eli will tell you. I mean, he got his MCSE to get into this, right? And he had that conversation with Adolfo.
yeah,
Was that in
yeah,
Seattle?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes. For a few hours, that changed how we approach this completely. And back then, that worked. I mean, what I did back in the day worked as well. Um, what would I do these days? I don't know. I'm not sure. I'm not sure I would start a generalized MSP these days, to be honest, unless you want to be basically a glorified salesperson that's reselling everybody else's platforms. I'm not sure I would start a general MSP these days. I would start something that's a little more focused. Um, I think there's good money still in surveillance systems.
Really?
There's a lot of our clients are still rolling these things out and want better surveillance systems. You got to realize what's out there. 90% of what's out there is 480p, right? Or 360p or what does YouTube encode you down to? Whatever the minimum is there. That's what folks have, right? So the new stuff, the 4K, the 2.5K, um, the IR night vision stuff, like this is equipment a lot of people don't have, and that's something that it requires physical presence, right? You got to go physically install it. You got to show people how to use these things. In a lot of cases, you have to install the app on people's smartphones, right? So uh, there's definitely a niche there. At least there is here because we do a lot of quotes on it. And we roll a lot of that stuff out. Um, and again, all of these 20 years ago, these systems were standalone. They didn't integrate into your computer network. You used coax cable a lot of the time to hook these cameras up. They're all Ethernet now. Everything's on the network. So, I would definitely specialize in that. We do. Um, Wi-Fi deployments, certainly large scale Wi-Fi deployments, hotels, things like that. They need that stuff. That's still a thing. Um, cybersecurity is a thing. You have to be able to offer it. And cybersecurity is more of a specialty than a general MSP. These MSPs that are like, oh, we do everything and we also throw in all the cybersecurity. Most of that's crap, right? They're just reselling something they don't usually understand. They don't have dedicated folks who understand it. We can do it. Let me be clear. I don't believe any of our staff could deliver the cybersecurity services we deliver. It's because I do it and I'm trained in it and I've got the education in it and I understand it. None of the other techs could. We could say, "Oh yeah, no, we'll put the endpoint protection on, no problem," but that's not real cybersecurity, right? So there is space for real cybersecurity, but you have to have that IT background too, right? You have to be able. You can't just know cybersecurity. You got to know the whole thing, right? Even how you dig into it. How are you going to go if you just have cybersecurity, how are you going to go do port mirroring on a switch and capture a bunch of packets and analyze the packets to see if somebody's doing something they shouldn't on the network right now. They don't teach you that in cybersecurity school. Cybersecurity school is mostly policy based, right? It's policies and, human resource stuff and things like that. It's and plans, lots of plans. BCDR, business continuity and disaster recovery plan. And that's all fine, but who's going to execute it? If you don't know how to execute it, how are you going to execute it? How are you actually going to track this stuff down? And I'll tell you, when somebody calls you and says something weird's happening and they lost a bunch of money, you have to execute it right then and there. You can't figure it out on the spot. You have to know, like, I'm going in and I'm port mirroring right now for the next 12 hours to see if somebody's still there, right? So yeah, that's what I would do is I'd focus on some really specific things. I wouldn't start a general MSP, and my main focus would not be selling 362 licenses and trying to make money on that. There's guys, I'm telling you, the mega MSPs and these like buying groups, if we want to call them that, they're going to destroy that whole space for everybody. There's no space for a little player anymore. They're just going to get the volume discounts that you can't compete with. And it's a commodity industry. I mean, lots of clients. If all you're providing is a 362 license, that they don't care if they buy it from ABC Tech or Eli the computer guy, or they don't care. Why would they care? It doesn't matter. It's just a commodity. Everybody can do it. There's no specialized service there, right?
Fair enough. Okay, so we'll do one last question and we'll call it a day because we've actually been talking for over 2 hours. So let's see. Robbie, what's up?
Oh, you mentioned setting up security systems. I was just wondering, you live in grizzly country. Do you have to take any extra precautions or tell your staff to carry any bear spray? Has wildlife ever gotten in the way of, you know, going to a job site?
Not honestly, not really. You do see bears on the road sometimes and such, and once in a while they'll come into town, but it's actually not that common. For some reason in Alaska, you get a lot of moose on the roads, like in town on the streets. That's super common in Alaska. It's not really that common in the Yukon. They hide more in the bush. But yeah, no, that's yeah, that's always a funny one, but
Cool, cool, cool. All right.
and remember, everybody, remember Eli's three rules. Remember three rules. Distrust, verify, and stay suspicious, right? What's the other one? Under promise, over deliver. And if you're thinking about firing someone, you probably should have already done it. That one bit me a few times. I still haven't learned that,
Yeah,
by the
I
way.
learned that from a CEO. Basically, he said, you hire too quickly and fire too slowly.
Yeah. Yeah, that's burned me a few times. A few, it still does.
Cool, cool, cool. Okay. So this was good. Hold on one second. Can I? Oh, there we go. I will start chucking people in a second. So it was good talking to you. You stick around for a second. Is there any final words to the students out there?
I don't think so. Look, there's plenty of opportunity in the tech world. It changes all the time. I mean, just look at Eli or myself, the MCSE. Nobody's talking about that anymore, but that was the thing in that day. So if you're in the industry, you got to be willing to change, and you got to be willing to change quick. If that's not something you're into, then this probably isn't the industry for you. But there will always be opportunity in tech. I mean, everything has tech. Everything has tech. Cars have tech now. Um, you know, dealership clients of ours, everything is these field laptops that they plug into cars. That's how they diagnose anything. If the laptop's not working, they can't work on the car. Like it's ridiculous. Everything is tech related now. So it's certainly a field that's not going anywhere, but definitely have to adapt.
Cool, cool, cool. Okay. Well, thank you much for this, and I will kick everybody else out. So hold on one second. So everybody, next week we are having Steve Newman. So he's the head of business development for an internet service provider here. So he's next week. The week after that, we're going to have a guy he's a founder of an AI company, AI. So we'll see how that goes. So if you're interested in this, make sure to sign up on the meetup and whatever, and I'll see you all later.